Okay, I am Heather Datillo, and I am one of the co-leaders for the Boulder, Colorado TUG group, Tableau user group, and we are so thrilled that you could be joining us today. In Colorado, we had the beauty of a very white Easter, not a white Christmas this weekend, or white Passover as well. I had 9 inches of snow yesterday when we measured it in the backyard. So I hope you all are enjoying the snow that are in Colorado. But the beautiful thing about this TUG meeting is that it's virtual. So we have gone global with our presenters, and we're hoping that you're joining us from other parts of the country and world as well for this virtual meeting. We have a great agenda planned for you today. What I do want you to know is that you can participate. You are on mute and your videos are off right now because this is a Zoom webinar. Um, but I think many of you in the times that we're in have maybe been experiencing something similar to this with your Zoom meeting. So what I want you to do is to be able to find a way to use the Q&A. So, you know, the Brady Bunch, poor Alice, she hasn't been able to figure out where her video is or the unmute. I want you to know you don't have control over video or mute in the Zoom webinar. In your Zoom meetings, you do as well. But you know, I think we've all had some fun experiences with Zoom. If you haven't been using it before, I've done my first Passover Seder via Zoom with some family members last week, and we did an Easter Zoom on Sunday, and have been doing a cocktail Zoom every Saturday with friends for a game night. So I hope you are finding ways to stay safe and to physically distance but socially connect via Tableau and Zoom and other ways. So I'm Heather Datillo, as I mentioned. Our other Boulder TUG co-leader is Chris Cox. He's joining us from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm coming to you from Longmont, Colorado. And at the end of our Boulder TUG meeting, we always end with a very exciting Stump the Chump session. So if you have questions, burning questions in Tableau where things are just not working the way that you expect. I am a certified trainer for Tableau. I'm the director of training and education at Boulder Insight. And I often will get questions from students and they will come in and say, I heard Tableau makes easy things hard and hard things easy. And so if you are having trouble with those hard things right now that you think should be easy, this is your chance to put in the Q&A what that struggle is that you're having. And Chris, our chump, resident chump here and Tableau Ninja Master, will be answering those questions at the end of our day. But know that you can start putting in the Q&A now with whatever those questions are, and he will start to answer those live. So our agenda today is that we are really fortunate to have Simon Beaumont joining us from London, England. He is a Tableau Zen master, as many of you know, and he is also the Global Director of Business Intelligence for JLL. And Simon will be talking about the community, and I will then move into welcoming Julie Burrows and Mike Lampa here, and they're waving to you in your screen about embracing modern analytics. And Mike and Julie are joining us from Denver, Colorado, from a really great company called Great Data Minds. And so since we have so many great data minds joining us on the call, I think it's really appropriate to have them joining us as well. From there, we'll be talking with Kevin Swearengin. His good friends call him Kev. And Kev is going to be talking about when Susie wants a pie chart, should you give her the pie chart? We all know that there's a real smackdown in the Tableau community around pie charts and whether you should use them or not. Stephen Pugh has done a 14-page rant on not using a pie chart. So Kevin is going to focus on exploring human-centered design principles and how you can help Susie get what she needs, but maybe not the pie chart. So you'll get what you want, but maybe get not what you need there. So we'll go ahead and work through that. And then we will end with our Stump the Chump. And we will talk about, after our Stump the Chump session, just ways for us to stay connected as a community in Colorado and beyond. And we'll be inviting our neighbor. I know some of you might notice my Mr. Rogers, won't you be my neighbor picture in the background. My neighbor that I want to introduce you to at the end is Denise Peck, who's in charge of the Denver Tableau user group. And we'll talk about ways to stay connected as a community. So we hope you all are staying safe. We hope that cabin fever doesn't have you down and social distancing doesn't have you down, and that your spirits will be lifted up today as you spend the next 2 hours with us. So welcome, and that is what we have planned for the day. So with no further ado, I am going to actually hand over the call to our esteemed colleague and Tableau Zen master, Simon Beaumont. As I mentioned, he is a Tableau Zen master. He's also in charge of some user groups in the UK as well, a healthcare user group. He has presented at the Tableau conference. You might all notice some of the background that's here in the photo that we're using as well. And he has a wealth of knowledge to share with us. So Simon, I am going to hand this on over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen and allow you to take over. Welcome, Simon. We're so glad you can be with us.
Cool. Thank you, Heather, and great to be here. Thanks for the invite. Can you just let me know as soon as you can see my screen?
We see it just fine.
Cool. So today I will be sharing my story, and I've entitled it Community and I. It focuses on how I embrace the Tableau community, but also for me, how it's also influenced my professional career as a leader of an analytics department within JLL. It's fair to say pretty much most of the founding principles in terms of the way we work, the way we behave, and the way we learn are all inspired by the community. So a little bit of both. It's going to be my personal journey, and it's going to be the way that it influences my team and my organisation. So just a little bit about me, and thank you, Heather, for the very kind introduction. I am really proud to be a Tableau Zen master, now in my second year. It's fair to say when I started Tableau about 5 or 6 years ago, I learned so much from the likes of Matt Francis, Ryan Sleeper, and it's a great honour to be part of that group. And congratulations to all of my fellow Zens that were awarded the title this year. And it's great to see so many varied people with such great backgrounds. I'm also a user group ambassador, and user groups are very much my passion and where I started in the Tableau community, and that will be part of my personal journey that I'll share with you in a minute. From a personal perspective, I'm desktop certified professional. I'd love to say I've tried to be desktop certified for server certified professional as well, but that is yet to, I've yet to be brave enough to get that dual qualification. I also co-lead Sports Biz Sunday, which I'll touch on a little bit later. And as Heather mentioned, I co-chair the UK and Virtual Global Health Clubs. And in my day job, I am BI Centre of Excellence Director within JLL. We are a corporate real estate company who specialises in data, and we really use data in the heart of everything we do. For me, I've been there about 18 months now to 2 years, and every day I am awarded a great deal of support, a great deal of commitment in terms of using data to better who we are and to achieve our ambitions. So really, JLL, a lot of what I'll share later is how we do data within our Centre of Excellence. Just a bit about me before Tableau. It's fair to say if you cut me off. So I was all about Excel. For me, I at the time was in a healthcare organisation. So I had about 10 analysts. And it's fair to say that the holy grail was report automation. So I really didn't care about visualization. It was all about numbers. It was all about charts. But the charts was complex pretty much as a table or a line chart. And I will be ashamed to say at that stage, I did embrace the pie. I've since learned also. But within my healthcare organisation, prior to Tableau, my community was pretty much an organisation. I didn't look beyond it. That was all I knew. That was all that influenced me. And as I say, it was all about Excel. But primarily, it was more about process than people. And looking back, I didn't know any better. So that some of that may resonate with you. But looking back now, my understanding of data and my understanding of how you utilize data to better your organization and better people is so far from that reality of where I was just 5 or 6 years ago. But as I say, I literally didn't know any better, so I didn't know the alternative that was out there. And for me, the place where my journey first started was the user group. And that's why for me it's such a passion to be able to come and join me today from across the pond and be able to speak to you about my journey. For me, user groups didn't start off at a house tug. At the time when I first embraced user groups, back in the summer of 2016, actually there wasn't a house tug within the UK. But I attended the London tug, and in the UK we're really fortunate to have amazing in-person and virtual London Tableau user group run by the likes of Paul Chapman, Pablo Gomez, David Perez, and Sarah Bartlett, and Laura Sanford. I'm pleased I didn't miss any. But the London Tug is a terrific group of about 200 people. And for me, I took my first steps. I attended it, and it really opened my eyes in terms of the art of the possible. Beyond that, I went to the Tableau Fringe Festival. The Tableau Fringe Festival is an online festival that is run by the community for the community, and a massive shout out to Emily Kuhn, who actually founded the Tableau Fringe Festival. They're actually now running DataFam Community Jam. So with the support of Tableau, you can actually join on a Friday a virtual community for 2 hours a day, and I would thoroughly recommend doing so. They're running for the next few weeks, and they have a lot of content that is inspirational. The content is varied in theme and varied in speaker, but they've already run 2, and they are recorded, and it's a great opportunity for you to learn more about the Tableau community and benefit from the expertise of your peers in this time of COVID-19 when we're all in lockdown and not able to leave our houses. But for me, a user group it's my source of a local network, but I will also say, for me, I utilise a user group as a way of identifying talent. I'm a BI leader within my organisation, and I want to be able to attract the best people into JLL where I work. And actually, a way for me to do that is attend a user group, see who else is out there, see what they're doing, and learn from them. And I'll be honest, that's the way I got my current job. I was very fortunate. Paul Chapman was leading the London user group. I presented at the London user group, and about 6 months later, he knocked on my door and said, "Would you fancy working for me?" So a user group is a great way of promoting yourself, but also a great way as a BI leader to actually be able to embrace the community and identify the people that you want as your future talent and your future champions. And I would just say, when Heather reached out and said, would anyone be willing to speak? I jumped to the chance because I recognised what user groups have given me and I wanted to give something back. So I would encourage you, anyone in the group, doesn't matter how simple you think your topic is, everyone's got something to learn. I can guarantee you, I sit here as a Tableau Zen master, I will learn stuff tonight or afternoon your time at this user group. So if you are interested in embracing the user group, I'd thoroughly recommend volunteering to present, or likewise, if you've got a user group and people are needing a co-lead, reach out because it really is a massive commitment to run a user group. And very much from my point of view, within healthcare, to have more than area in terms of people that will support that. So just walking through my journey, next came blogging. So I write my own blog at visionaryblog.co.uk. Very much my blogging journey has been inspired by the community. It's where I find my inspiration and learning. There are numerous blogs that I reach out and use on a daily basis. Large Twins, probably one of the ones that I go to the most, Tableau Magic. Ryan Sleeper, who runs a fantastic guide, not just about Tableau, but also about design principles, data to ink ratios, how to maximize intrigue to insight. But also, it's beyond Tableau. So there are a couple of blogs that I just wanted to give a shout out to that have made a massive difference to my career and my professional development. They are Storytelling with Data by Cole Knathnik-Nausbammer, and also Visualizing Data by Andy Kirk. Neither of those individuals specialize in Tableau specifically on their blogs, but the concept and the principles that they share absolutely can influence us and be applied in everything that we do. And I'll touch upon something that Cole runs within Storytelling Data slightly later on, in terms of the Storytelling with Data challenge that I apply within our professional centre of excellence within JLL. Also, you've got Twitter. Twitter is where I found my voice. It's my professional and social network, and it's one of my main sources of inspiration, not necessarily from a technical
I'm
perspective.
so sorry to interrupt. We're having your mic come in and out a few times, so I don't know if there's, just wanted to let you know that most of the
Yep.
time it's okay, but it'll just come in and out from time to
Let me switch to my PC one. So bear with us 2 seconds.
time. Okay, no worries.
Heather, can you hear me now?
Yes, that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, not a problem. Sorry about that. Twitter is very much where I found my voice. It's my professional and social network, but it's also a source of inspiration, less from a technical perspective and more from a visual perspective and ideas perspective. So as an example, Makeover Monday, I quite often use that hashtag just to search what people are doing. And I'll be amazed the amount of times that I take back one of those ideas and apply them to my organisation, the way that I work, and the dashboards that I make within JLL. It keeps me up to date, but I will say it's not always a nice place. And don't put Twitter down just because of the bad behaviours of a few. The one thing I'd want all of us to do within the Tableau community is remember the fun and remember why we're here. We're all here to be better. We're all here to support each other. And I personally have not yet had an experience where someone hasn't connected with me wanting me to do well. And that's what I love about the Tableau community. We are all in it together and we're all there to support each other. Heather, if the audio does cut out again, just give us a shout, but hopefully it's all better.
It's much better. Sounds great. Thank you, Simon.
So just before I jump into work, I just wanted to share some of the initiatives that have influenced me individually, but also that I leverage within the workplace. So we've got Makeover Monday, originally run by Andy Cockreeve and Andy Kriebel, then passed the baton to Mr. Kriebel and Eva Murray, and recently Charlie Hutchison has joined the crew to support Eva this year and co-run it. I will say Makeover Monday made the biggest difference to my professional learning when I first embraced Tableau. It was the thing that allowed me to see what was possible in Tableau, and it allowed my eyes to be opened in terms of the numerous different ways you can approach a single task. I actively encourage my analysts at work to do Makeover Monday, and I encourage them to take 2 or 3 hours out of their working week to do it, because I can guarantee you that the analysts will learn more from doing 2 or 3 hours of Makeover Monday than they would do from doing an hour to a day's paid course. That's not to disparage people. I know, Heather, you said you're a professional trainer in Tableau earlier, so I recognise the value that those courses bring. But if you want to embed sustained learning, Makeover Monday is a terrific way to further enhance your design skills and also to embrace storytelling. An alternative to Makeover Monday is Workout Wednesday. I'm not going to list the whole of the gang because there's numerous of them, but Lorna, Chris, Rosario, the team, they do a fantastic job running Workout Wednesday and actually giving people technical challenges to really get under the hood of Tableau. I don't do it enough, I will admit, but I know so many people that have learned advanced techniques and different ways of approaching building Tableau because of Workout Wednesday. So I think for me, Makeover Monday is more about the visual, Workout Wednesday is more about the technical. But when you blend the two together within a working environment, you get some people do one, some people the other, actually you get the best of both. And then you've got some topic-specific themes. So you've got Lindsay Betzendahl, who, massive shout out to Lindsay, fellow Health Tug lead and Zen Master for this year. Lindsay runs Project Health Viz. Lindsay's passion is healthcare, and she recognised there as a vibrant healthcare community within Tableau. So she sets on a monthly basis a single data set and encourages people to explore that data set to build vizzes. It's not been going the longest, but I have been amazed at how much people have embraced that project and engaged with it. And I think it's because at the end of the day about healthcare, it's about people. So it resonates with people. And it's a great way of building on people's passions to explore their love of Tableau. A shout out to the Moors, who are currently running the Sustainable Development Goals Viz project. So that is 17 Sustainable Development Goals that have been set by the UN to, as a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future. They focus on one of those Sustainable Development Goals every month, and they encourage people to visit about them. They've had a couple of visit of the days at least, and there's some great examples that come out of it. No doubt a lot of you will know IronQuest, so run by Sarah Bartlett as a way of engaging with the Tableau community to maximise people's participation. So Sarah was one of the first people that I witnessed on stage at Tableau Conference Europe at IronViz. IronViz is quite a daunting concept for some people, visiting in 20 minutes in front of thousands of people. But Sarah used her experience to benefit others. She actually started IronQuest as a way of opening the door and welcoming people into the community and saying, actually, everyone can participate in a similar style of event. So rather than being about a topic or about a data set or about a specific element of Tableau, Sarah sets quite broad challenges, such as mapping, such as the environment, sports, and she encourages people to viz about that specific topic. So it really is a way of embracing a lot of different people into the community. And she often gets in excess of 30 or 40 people participate a month. And last but not least is Viz for Social Good. And I will say last but not least, there are loads of others that are out there, but for me, I just had to pick a few. So Viz for Social Good, run by Chloe Zeng. The reason I wanted to share it is we actually do it at work as well. So in JLL, we've got a charity partner, Crisis, who try and support ending homelessness in the UK. Recently, we reached out and we actually did an internal Viz for Social Good where Crisis shared their data, and we as analysts came together to spend some time at work developing visualizations for them so that they could see and understand their data in a better and more insightful way. Yes, it was a time commitment, but A, we thoroughly enjoyed it, and B, it was our way of giving back to the organisation and showcasing our skills. So we can't go and mend a building, we can't go and fix a light bulb, but what we can do is use our skills as analysts to be able to benefit our charity partner, and that's something that we chose to do this year, just prior to Christmas. But to end my journey, I just wanted to share the thing that I am most passionate about. So my shared passion is sports and data. And in 2018, in January, I was fortunate enough to join James Smith and Spencer Balke to start Sports Biz Sunday. We've recently been joined by Chris Westlake. For me, it's a platform to celebrate sports and data, but also to shine a light on the community and showcase the amazing visualizations that are out there. I know I don't get that much time with a 2-year-old at home, but when I do, I know that I still love to viz. Gone are the days where I used to load up the PlayStation and play on FIFA. But actually, vizzing is my passion and sport is my passion. I know that's where I become my most creative. And on the left, you'll see one of my visualizations that I recently did with Lorna Brown and with Sam Parsons, looking at the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz Jr. For me, sports brings out my creative side, and I love the way that Sports Viz Sunday connects the sporting and data community to shine a light on them, and more importantly, we all have fun. So that was my personal journey. I just wanted to share with you some of the highlights, some of what gets me out of bed in the morning, some of what I loved about Tableau. Hopefully you'll know most of them, but if not, maybe it's giving you a little bit of intrigue to be able to explore some of them and start to participate yourself. But I will say all of them have made such a difference to me in terms of me learning Tableau, my professional development, and being where I am today. So then taking those principles, I could actually apply them to the workplace. So my role as JLL BI Centre of Excellence Director is about enabling a team of analysts to be the best they can, to deliver insights to the organisation and allowing my consumers to make data-driven decisions every single day of the week. So my job is about allowing them to be the best they can. And a lot of what I do to achieve that is to apply the same principles that I've just spoken about inclusivity, about intrigue, about innovation, learning, creativity. I apply that within our framework of how we work and behave in the processes that we run. And I just wanted to share with you 3 or 4, maybe 5 key examples of that, ones that tangibly you could take away and apply within your workplace to benefit from the same approach. So first off, I wanted to share Viz standards. I've had numerous conversations with people, and Viz standards appear to be a love it or loathe it concept. For me, it isn't about dictating that you've got to do a bar chart or you've got to do a line chart, or pretty much as long as it's not a pie chart, anything's fine. Actually, for me, Viz standards are about consistency in design, about sharing learning across your community in a way that educates and inspires your analysts, that ultimately leads to attracting and retaining talent. But ultimately, the purpose for me of Viz standards are about maximizing the user experience. So within JLL, we have developed our own visualization style guide, and we've uploaded it to Tableau Public. And I've had numerous people turn around to me and go, why would you want to give away your intellectual intelligence, your intellectual property? You know what? Most of what's in our Viz standards isn't our intellectual property, it's the community's. It's been inspired by the community. So within our Viz standards, we share community blogs and examples to educate our analysts. So I don't just say, do this. We also say, do this, and this is how you do it. So we raise everyone's skill set and education as they go along. And inspired by Fee Gordon, who I'm fortunate enough to work with every day, Fee's a Tableau ambassador down in APAC, living in Sydney. Fee came up with a concept of Visicize. So what we actually do is we give analysts learning exercises that take the style guide. We develop poor visualizations as part of it. So we deliberately go out there and make visualizations that don't apply visual best practices, don't apply our internal style guide. We give them, our analysts, those workbooks, and we encourage them to retrofit the Viz standards to those poor visualizations as a way of them embedding the learning that they get through reading the Viz standards and applying it. We also, as part of the Viz standards, focus on process. So around how do we achieve consistent adoption? And that's around agile processes. So we don't use a waterfall approach to developing our dashboards. We actually use agile methodology to do that. So we identify the work as it comes in. We prioritize that based on our organizational requirements and what the priorities of our client are. And then we put it into a pipeline, the backlog, and then we put it into 2 weekly sprints. Now that's just a way of prioritizing our work. But the biggest thing for me about Agile is the end bit, which is about engagement and quality. So we actually run Viz reviews every single week, where an analyst will present their visualization back to their peers. And I'll come on to it in a little bit more detail a little bit later on, because that for me is one of the best things we've done. But ultimately, the Viz standards, if you ask me why we've done it, it isn't to produce the fanciest dashboard. It isn't to learn how to do Sankey diagrams or chord diagrams. For me, it's about giving the best user experience you can so that people adopt Tableau and do something with it. And the way that we've done that is we've got a new JLL Data Viz color palette. So we've deliberately toned down all of our colors to allow the data to sync. And we've given people strong guidance about the order that they should use color, not just the combinations. But also we've got common prompts. And you'll see on the little image to the right-hand side, there's some colored arrows. So anywhere in our Vizes where there is a action, as in a click action, a hover action, or a URL action, we put a visual prompt to the colored triangle. Because when I first started in Data Viz and I first started in Tableau, the amount of times that someone would ring me up and say, I've clicked on my dashboard and something's changed, it's broke. Actually, it wasn't broke, it was intended to work like that, but we'd never informed the user that that functionality was there. So a lot of what we do with our user experience is take basic visual prompts to try and enhance their experience to allow them to be in control of their own journey. And a colored arrow is as simple as it can get. So moving on to Viz reviews. So as part of Agile, we've got Viz standards, we've built the Viz, but before we release it, we apply a process similar and one that's been inspired by the Makeover Monday Viz reviews. So as an analyst, as a group of analysts, we come together every Friday, and it can be virtual or it can be in person, and an analyst presents their dashboard to their peers. So as a team, we're coming together and we're celebrating success, and we've got shared achievements. It doesn't focus on formatting. It would be so easy to say, that font's wrong or that colour's wrong. There's no value of doing that as a team. Take that offline. It focuses on storytelling and insights. And more importantly, it's not about criticism. So much about making an internal community a success is about the culture and ethos underlying that community. So we deliberately use terminology when giving feedback, and again, this was inspired by Fee, of I like and I suggest. And that means our Viz reviews are a very safe place to present work without the fear of being criticised or torn down. And how those Viz reviews work is an analyst will submit Viz for review, and they'll do that on Microsoft Teams. So that's our collaboration platform. They will share a link which will take them through to a work in progress on Tableau server. Their peers then review it individually. So they usually share their Viz on about a Wednesday, and then the analysts will spend time on a Wednesday and a Thursday reviewing that Viz for themselves. I will then host a review WebEx where we get all 10 of my analysts and sometimes stakeholders as well on a Viz review. The analysts that have submitted the Viz will present it, and they will talk through their concept, they will talk through their story. They won't explain how they've built it, they'll explain why. And then based on that, we'll have an open discussion where their peers will give them feedback in ways that is intended to enhance the product they're developing. Their peers will document that on Microsoft Teams in the thread, so that the person presenting it doesn't have to worry about documenting it at the same time as presenting. And then the analyst will take it back, they'll implement the Viz feedback, and then a week later, usually it's ready for release as part of our 2-weekly sprint cycle. But it's a very safe and protected environment for allowing analysts to share their feedback and for us as a team to bust silos and have joint goals and work together. And we also want to learn together. And the way that I've chosen to do that is to implement a monthly Viz challenge within JLL. It's inspired by the Storytelling with Data challenge that Cole runs. So Cole doesn't focus on a particular data set. She focuses on a chart type. Or she focuses on a concept. So I think last month it was animation. And before that, it would have been about areas or heat maps or line charts. But it focuses on storytelling skills. And so much of what we do within a workplace is about telling stories to our consumers. So I encourage my analysts every month to take non-work-based data, just in the same way that I want to use sports data to connect with my data and my passion. I encourage them to do the same. So sometimes it's food, music, politics, weather, music. But they deliberately don't do it on a work data set. That way we can share it with each other. So it's not closing the loop, it's opening it up. I allow them time to do it in work, and it isn't a competition. There are no prizes, there are no top end. It's just an opportunity to celebrate creativity and inspire each other to grow as a team. And the way that we do it, we choose a topic or a chart type. And on the first of the month, I announce the challenge. But in doing so, I share some community best practice so that if people haven't done a heat map before, or people haven't used animation before, they can go online and they can see how others have done it. It runs for a month. The analysts then submit their data, and I actively encourage them to publish it to Tableau Public as well, so that they can share it with the community and they can give feedback. But also they can be proud of the work they've done. And at the end of the month, about 2 weeks after the end of the month, I host an internal WebEx where all of the people that participated join that WebEx, and they spend a minute or two to share their Viz with their colleagues and to talk about how they've approached it and anything they've learned. And again, it's just an opportunity about giving analysts a voice so they feel part of this internal community and they're proud to be working for JLL. And on the right, you'll just see some examples of dashboards that were created as part of one of our Viz challenges. And yet it was a Super Mario game as well that someone created in the very early days before Merlin and Klaus and co kind of went crazy with the API. And I would also say, as part of a workplace community, be visible, and be visible both internally and externally. So internally, utilize discussion forums. We've got Microsoft Teams. For you, it might be Slack, it might be Yammer, it might be others. But encourage active discussion amongst your analysts, especially if you don't work together in the same building. If you're a COE leader, share inspiration. That's why I'm part of Twitter, because I've got it open on my work PC every day. I will look at what's inspiring me and I will share that with my team. But externally, shout about your successes. Share it with others and shout about your community so you inspire others in a way that promotes your organization. And the benefit of that is by promoting your internal community, you can actively support recruitment. Make it, for me, make the community your analytics USP for your organization. Use it to attract new talent and improve retention. And by improving retention, you invest and grow your existing talent. And as a team, you become proud of who you are. And on the right-hand side, you will see a Viz that I created when I was working in the National Health Service in England. So I was leading a Tableau Centre of Excellence within the National Health Service. Needless to say, working in a public sector organisation, we didn't have that much money. So I couldn't go out and say to people, work for me because I can pay you loads. But what I could do is say, work for me because I can offer you a culture where I will invest in you and I will give you the opportunity to grow. And so when we had a vacancy, I actually produced a Tableau Public Viz that I published to my Tableau Public profile, and I used that as my job advert. And we actually successfully recruited a Tableau certified desktop professional individual who had been working with Tableau for 3 or 4 years and was drawn to us because of the principles that I shared in that visualization. So you can be creative and use Tableau Public as a platform to showcase your organization just in the way that we in JLL have done by sharing our visualization standards. And to end, it's all about people. I'm really fortunate enough, in my 5 years of the Tableau community, I have benefited so much from that game that you see on screen there. Your Tableau community, your Tableau ambassadors, your Zen masters, your user group leaders. So just as the Tableau community is about people, so is your internal community. And by investing in your analysts, by investing in your stakeholders and your consumers, you will maximize their use of data and you will become a better organization as a result. So that is everything from me. I just want to say a massive thank you for letting me join from across the pond and speak to you all tonight. If you did want to get in touch, there's my Twitter handle, my blog post, and my Tableau Public page. But I am more than happy to stay online for as long as you need me to answer any questions and to enjoy the rest of the content tonight. So thank you, and Heather, back over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Simon. It's so great to have you joining us from across the pond. I don't see questions in the Q&A, but I do see a hand raised. Mary Schmidt, I don't know if you were just talking about the audio or if you had an actual question for Simon. The hand is down. I think not. And so, Simon, I love the way that you are building community throughout, not only with the Tableau community. Often people will ask me, what is the secret sauce of Tableau? And for me, I used to say dashboard actions, but then as I really dove deeper into it, it's really the community. I worked in the nonprofit world most of my career, and I was nervous about going to work for the man, and that there wouldn't be that sense of community, and that is not the case with Tableau. And so I love that you have found that community in the work that you're doing, but you're building that community and that ability to play with data in a safe environment with your company. So love the Center of Excellence stuff that you shared as well.
Yeah, And for me, it's the thing that's made such a difference to me. When I first started Tableau, as I said, it was all about report production, about automation. But actually, it just opened my eyes about what's possible if you invest in people. And I know we agreed on 20 minutes, so I could have talked for about an hour if I'd have spoken about data literacy, investment in people. And it is just as important as a centre of excellence to focus on your consumers of data as it is on your analysts. And again, so much of that has come from leaders in the Tableau community. So people like Ravi Mistry, that really have focused on data literacy and maximising people.
I love that. And we are getting one question. Where is a good place to source data sets to practice? From Casey McGrath.
So when my analysts ask me this question, I will direct them to a couple of places. Data.world is where Makeover Monday and SportsViz Sunday host all of our data. And I think Lindsay might do it about Project HealthViz as well. But even beyond the Tableau initiatives that I shared today, Data.world has got a shed load of community data sets that go way beyond Tableau that you can connect to. There is also Kaggle, and you can find loads of data sets on there. But there are also some great examples. If you wanted some more quirky data sets, UNICEF have got their own public data warehouse that you can connect to. And you can actually look at all the UNICEF data that they publish, and they make that available to you. And I guess I should say, there's also, especially in these times, a load of COVID data is being published. I would, as a healthcare professional by background, just take a slight word of caution about just taking time to understand the data you're looking at. But there is data that's out there that you can look at that resonates because it's about your local area. So I would connect to your government web pages, also Tableau's web page and the John Hopkins University, because that's a great source right now of looking at data that can make a real difference.
That's great. Well, Simon, thank you so much. I wish you well the rest of the evening, and I hope you get to tuck in your little 2-year-old and enjoy that bedtime. We don't want to take that away from you. So if no one else has another question for Simon, I'm going to allow him to get back to his family. I'll just wait one more second and see.
Simon, that was great.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks,
I love your
guys.
community perspective.
It is.
Rest of the session, enjoy it, and hopefully this is the first of many virtual tugs for you guys. So I look forward to joining you all in a couple in the future.
Thank you so much, Simon. Take care. So I am going to introduce you now. Actually, I'm not going to pull up the slide since we have your video up and things with it, but we have Julie Burrows and Mike Lampa from Great Data Minds, and I'm so thrilled that they were able to join us. The best part of these virtual trainings is we have no idea what's happening from the waist down. So we could all be in PJs and slippers here as well, but from the top up, it's all business, and that's where we're going to jump in now. So Julie and Mike have become friends of ours, not just colleagues and partners. We have so enjoyed getting to know them. And Julie is a master networker, I have to say. Before Chris and Kev started working with her, they mentioned her name in a meeting. I'm like, she reached out to me via LinkedIn about, Alberto Cairo coming to town. And unfortunately, that had to get postponed, but we are working on it. But Julie and Mike both work for a company with the best name I've ever heard of for data, which is Great Data Minds. And they have a great focus on innovation. Each of them have worked with companies large and small that have been data-driven champions for the organizations that they work with. And have a ton of great knowledge to share and a wealth of information that they're going to share with us. So I am going to hand over the call to you all now to focus on your session on embracing modern analytics and just what this means to us all. So you are in great hands with the Great Data Minds folks with Julie and Mike. I hand this off to you all.
Heather, thanks for having us. You're amazing. And I thought we could do Zoom well, and you've got it down, girlfriend. So
not my first rodeo. That's for sure.
I know. We were talking beforehand. I actually hosted 100 people on Zoom on Saturday. It was tough. And I want to do a shout out to Kayla, who's on the line here, because she ran that whole thing for me, but we're still doing technical support. So thanks for having us. And I'd like to introduce my counterpart, Mike Lampa. Mike and I have worked together for, we'll just say many years. How about that? This is not our first rodeo. This is actually our fourth rodeo as it pertains to organizations, data organizations. We are both have worked in traditional and in modern type situations, along with most of our team. And happy to tell you that our last organization, Archipelago, here in Denver, was Google Partner of the Year. So we really do understand the modernization side of things, and can also talk the talk with those of you out there that might still be doing some of the traditional type work in data. Mike, we'll go to the next one. So our mission is a little bit different. We've got a kind of a two-pronged mission. One is to help organizations through advisory services, strategic development, et cetera. But on the other side of the coin is we have a lot of content out there. We really are passionate about educating people because things, excuse me, change so fast in the data world. As you guys may or may not know, but AWS announced at least 1,200 new products last year, and keeping up with all of that is tough. So part of our goal in life is to help organizations use modern data, but also educate everyone out there on new types of approaches and innovation. And we really take an emphasis on the human side of things. Gartner states that 65% of all data projects fail, and we happen to think that a lot of that might just be the people. So we are, we'll go a little bit more into the human side of things today. And if I had one wish, it would be that everyone that started a project with data or implemented a program would stop and take a little bit more look at those humans, because I think a lot of them go home at night driving home stressed out about innovation and new changes, et cetera. So for the next 40 minutes, we'll share with you a couple things. We're gonna, a lot of best practices. Mike and I work with a lot of different organizations. Mike is on staff at TDWI. We're presenting locally at DAMA. And we are, great news is we're changing the conversation in so many ways for those types of organizations where we're talking about modern analytics. We're going to share with you some of our core tenets that we have that are proven, and ways that we really focus our clients on, you know, taking a look at things. We're going to show you a couple of really nice real world use cases. And we're going to share with you, we're going to take you back, not back and forth, but we're going to point out to you over on our content side, places where you can go to learn more about what we're talking about today, because we're going to be cramming a lot in here. If you, in fact, want a copy of this slide deck or would like to continue conversations with myself, Mike, or any of our other advisors, just hit us at info@greatdataminds.com. All right, so how do we see things? The first thing that we see is, after being on the phone all day long with clients, governing bodies, resources, partners, is we believe that across the board, organizations are about 25% through their journey to the cloud or to modernization, shall we say. So that includes oil and gas guys that are slow to move. You see some of governments moving a little bit faster these days. Healthcare is finally coming on board, all the way to organizations like here in the Front Range, we have DaVita, which is a large healthcare organization, and they have now adopted cloud for their AI/ML, for their infrastructure, applications, and data warehouse. So people are just starting this journey, and what this is a tipping point. So we advocate, and you'll hear a little bit more about this, but we advocate that analytics, you should have analytics programs that are developed with the product management mindset. So things like SAFe or have been around for a long time, but what we're seeing, and this is what AWS and Google and a lot of the folks that we work with are stating, that you really have to start this mindset, and that should be, we're doing analytics products, not analytic projects. So this is kind of our one-page view. We try to get away from slides. We've got some today, but when we're talking to our clients, all of them are at some type of tipping point. But we really feel like organizations have to stop and take a look at the key areas that are in green. And this is almost a checklist of some of the things that they need to do. But after many discussions with a lot of folks, we said, does this green area look right? And we got a lot of buy-in saying yes. So this is under the program, you need to be looking at the 4 key areas, and we're going to be talking about them today, which are data management, data ops, self-serve, and then lean agile product management. In the blue is an example of one of our clients' portfolio of projects. And they would, those are, we work with them to strategically figure out what is the most valuable insight. And underneath all of that is, of course, the humans. But this should be a program of continuous value. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. We also believe that you can only be successful by using cloud services, implementing Agile, using Agile technologies and augmented technologies. So we are very big on using different types of solutions from different vendors in these key areas. Mike, you want to hit enter and I'll fill it in?
Do you want to go beyond this thing?
Yeah, if you hit enter, it'll fill it.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
So we have aligned and we work with some of what we feel to be the best solutions in the industry. We will tap on some of those today. Hit it again, Mike, if you would. And then again and again. So we believe that each of these products brings value to your organization in many different ways. We see a lot of coding going on these days, but I will tell you that some of these are new breeds of products that are just amazing and agile and allow organizations to go to market faster with their analytics programs. So here's the first slide to show you where to go to learn more. We've got a few of these throughout. So over on Great Data Minds, if you go over to events, you can join us. We're doing a full day on May 7th, and we're going to be looking at some of the best, we say cool tools in the industry, and we'll be coming in and out. You can stay for all 7 if you want with us. We're probably going to be starting around 3 on happy hour, but if you want to just drop in and maybe take a look at, Alteryx or something like that, or Samarkey, please join us, okay? So it's under events at Great Data Minds. All right, Mike, I'm going to hand it over to you and let what looks like Dr. Evil kick off your.
It's me, mini me. 1 million data points. All right, yeah, let's talk about data management services. So when you think about the convergence and the continual evolution of some of the enabling technologies specific in the analytics space, and in more specificity around data management services with the different kinds of data management, data repository, file management systems, and platforms that are available as services these days in cloud, along with the incredible amount of innovation and augmented capabilities in some of the data integration services tools. There's what Julie and I were realizing is, how do we constantly stay on top of these things and advise our customers on which products and tools they ought to be looking at? And oh, by the way, there's going to be an impact on some of our architectural techniques that we've been using, because they, quite frankly, were built up and got tried and true, and then they got codified and institutionalized, but they were built on technologies that had certain technological constraints that we had to design our databases accordingly to get around or to take advantage of the capabilities or constraints of technologies at that time. And a lot of those technologies now that are available to us now start to ask you, should we obviate the need for all this rigorous data architecture and data modeling techniques, for example, right? But one thing that has stayed the same is you still have to be deliberate, and you still have to be thoughtful about your end-to-end reference architecture for analytics. And if I start at the bottom around the data management services, there still is a valid, deliberate, thoughtful discussion that needs to take place to decide how many different kinds of data zones should I plan for as I'm processing these gobs and gobs of, that's a very technical term, of additional amount of data and quite complex and diverse data that we've not ever had before. And I still need a way to get all that stuff landed so I can figure out what I'm going to do with it. And then I'm still going to go through some level of refinement, because I want to enable this thing for the different kinds of analytic workloads that we want to support over time. And we want to do it thoughtfully so that if I want to change out technologies, I can protect the way I architected my solution. So maybe I'm just moving ones and zeros and I'm not building up technical debt. And a couple key areas that I want to focus in on, besides the landing zone or the raw data zone, that's kind of traditional. The refined zone is what we used to call staging, but I got to process that raw material and then serve it up for my reliable and predictable kind of analytic workloads that are in a modern data warehouse zone. But a lot more application level interface is starting to happen, either via the capture and then turn around and replication or syndication of data from master data management or reference data management systems that are cleaning up my hubs, and then I got to propagate and message that out to all the other consuming apps. So I need an application integration zone, and it needs to be deliberate, and it needs to be thought through to see if it should be a component of my end-to-end data management services that really is coexisting but isolated from analytic work, because I am going to start doing real-time machine learning analytic workloads that an application would invoke, and it needs to receive a payload and get a payload back, and it needs to be acting on up-to-date master data as part of that. And then the other area that we'll focus on a bit more is around the business analytics self-service data zone. And I'm going to click on that a little bit more. That has to be very deliberate because we've got a huge opportunity to embrace self-service analytics. And then we have all sorts of different kinds of data access capabilities that's enabling all of our analytic applications, with more and more focus around machine learning, augmented intelligence, or artificial intelligence. I prefer augmented, and data science workloads in addition to our traditional analytic workloads. And then as part of that deliberation around these different kind of zones, also just a quick deliberate role-based access model that's going to converge down to security and intersect with governance, so that as we're thinking through the different kinds of personas that are analytic consumers, which of them should be able to have access and what kind of access to these different zones and the content within those zones, with a particular focus around the continued growth and focus and opportunity around data science, and the citizen data scientists and the data analysts that are doing some amazing things if they have the ability to work and manipulate data. And then on the integration services side, a lot of different application integration vehicles that have been around forever, but they're starting to get more and more traction, especially as we start to do more real-time operational data science kind of analytics, where I want to be moving data on an API basis or message queue kind of basis. I still have to figure out, how do I capture the data and figure out what data has changed? I've got new kinds of data streaming in, more and more availability to data that's digital that wasn't digital before. I still have to figure out different ingestion methods for getting that data in. And then I'm going to enrich it, do the harmonization and integration, AKA the old ETL. Those things still have to happen. But I also have to take a step back and realize that to enable a data scientist, the way we are storing information inside of a data warehouse typically is not fit for purpose for feeding an analytic model. So I want to do a bunch of feature engineering and feature extraction, turning qualitative data into quantitative data so that I can process these things through these predictive models. And then in the data cataloging space, pretty exciting area, a lot more machine learning technology being built into the front end of these data catalogs that not only looks at the metadata from the source application, but also processes the content and comes back and makes recommendations around, hey, I think you got some privacy information in this thing called, it looks like there's a serial number in a phone number area, things of that sort. So to be able to quickly tag that data, analyze the information, support my governance needs, and support promoting data literacy as the information consumers want to see what's available. And then still have all sorts of kind of data quality. Our data is dirty. It will continue to be dirty. We need to have a good vehicle for figuring out where we can invoke those data quality rules so that we're not fixing bad data every night, but let's fix it at the source. And then the last area is really more of a deliberate design mindset that as we're processing information through all of those zones, we really have to have a holistic end-to-end audit, balance, and control infrastructure so that we know we're not losing any data or we're not incorrectly processing any data. I mentioned earlier that with the newer enabling data management technologies that are out there, it's starting to really push the envelope on, do I even need a schema on write anymore? You hear a lot of war, not quite religious wars, but your principal wars going on out there. Is like schema on write or schema on read. So we've got a pretty interesting panel discussion coming up where we're going to have 3 panelists talking about the virtue of using data vault modeling versus traditional Inman/Kimbo modeling versus just flatten that stuff out. All right,
yep.
So come
bunch
join
of passionate guys, yeah.
yeah.
Hans Holgren, I think, who's local here, you guys might know him, Scott Regan, and then Tyler Albrecht will be representing that crap. So please join us. Okay.
Yep. Thank you, dude. All right, Jill, back to you for a couple.
So, at the core this is a slide that we use. We in 2016, 2017, we went around and talked to probably about 500 VPs and about using cloud. And really it comes down to 5, key areas. And that is agility. In other words, stop wheeling in your boxes and everything. Let's go ahead and spin something up and have an environment within, 2 minutes where you can start to do work. Scalability, not having to buy hardware for those high times during, the month or year when you really need capacity. You can scale it up as much as you want or as little as you want. And guess what? It's pennies on the dollar. Reliability, we still have organizations that we see buying 2 boxes for failover for critical apps. And you're like, really? Okay. And then security, why wouldn't you want 2,000 additional security guys on your team? That's what you're looking at with some of these top cloud organizations. And pay-as-you-go pricing, I can tell you from our past and doing modern projects with specifically Google, that we were always able to go in and do a project for 70% of the cost of traditional. And I can repeat and repeat and repeat and show where we did that.
Yep.
So we're going to share with you a little video. This was actually the passion project that we had. That's the reason why I reached out and I said, hey guys, let's start Great Data Mines. This is a project we did at Archipelago. This is Michael Ames that you're about to see talk to you. He is a local. If you get a chance to hear Michael Ames speak anywhere, please do. So a real fast story about this. We had an event down at Ruth Chris's in downtown Denver, and it was all about the slide previous to this, what the cloud can do, and we dug into it. At the end, Mike looked at me, all we did was appetizers. He smacked me on the arm. He goes, I don't believe a word you said. And furthermore, he said, thanks for the steak dinner. And I said, that's okay. Thanks for coming. And I'll talk to you in a couple months. He called me about a month later and he goes, okay, I believe it. Get in here and help us. We help him with training, architecture, and several other things. So this is a great case study I'd like for you to watch. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit more afterwards.
Your genome is probably the single most identifying, unique thing about you. The goal of personalized medicine is about gathering as much data as we can on people to help us understand them better.
In the research study through the Colorado Center for Personalized Medicine, we're trying to leverage those differences in our discoveries. For each patient who undergoes genotyping, we get about 2.1 million pieces of genetic data.
What we need is the computational resources to make sure that we will never run out of storage space or that we will never pay for storage space that we're not using. Underlying all of those challenges are the questions of security.
It needs to be stored somewhere that is HIPAA compliant, even if it's de-identified.
And our solution was to move that data onto Google Cloud Platform. It gave us a way that was cost-effective and highly scalable. And if that was all it had given us, we would have been perfectly pleased. What we're finding is that that partnership is enabling us to drive to the next level of innovation and advanced analytics. Google BigQuery as a data warehouse, that's our beating heart. We gather data from lots of different places. We have to match up patient records. That activity took about 8 hours to run. We re-implemented that logic in Google BigQuery, and it finishes now in about 15 minutes. Through personalized medicine, we can give doctors tools to make the best diagnoses and treatment decisions. With Google Cloud Platform, we are chasing down every opportunity to improve human health by bringing this data together and analyzing it in ways that have never been analyzed before.
So let me tell you a little bit more about this project. Michael had an Exadata system sitting on the floor, over-architected data models, couldn't get anything out the door. And we had to, while working with him over the 6 months, we had to stay stealth. And it was the first call that was made to Oracle to say, we're not going to be using your solution any longer, and we're going to be using Google. So, well, we'll fly 11 people out to see you. And Michael said, no need. We've already moved over, and happy to go through the benefits and everything with you. What I love, and Oracle finally, gave up. What I love about this is the money that he was spending on his data operations or his data environment. 6 million of that was freed up and now goes to childhood cancer research. And that's
Awesome.
what data is supposed to be doing for us. So.
All right, so here's a trend alert. MDM is getting a resurgence in the market, and that's good news. We've got some modern approaches and solutions that are out in the market, moving away from master data management to be more like extreme data management, right? And so instead of dropping $1.5 million for a subscription to an MDM tool, and maybe 18 months later you'll get your first data domain mastered. How about something like along the lines of maybe $500,000 and within about the next 5 to 10, 15 weeks? Right? And from an approach standpoint, I've seen so many MDM programs slug along and never get there. What I saw work really well, and I've been promoting it ever since I saw it. This was at a large global 100 manufacturing firm. The one that took over data governance and master data management said, we're going to take a critical data element approach. We're going to look at the strategic objectives of the CEO, which at that time was improve working capital. That was the biggest impact on shareholder pricing. And I need that working capital improvement. So she focused in and said, okay, things that in fact impact working capital are our accounts payable and our accounts receivable and our inventory. So she zeroed in on looking at the critical data elements that drove terms and conditions for accounts receivable and terms and conditions for accounts payable, and fixed those so that they had a more positive cash flow. And then the next thing was focused in on inventory management and freight logistics. And in the freight logistics area, what we found was we were spending way more than the goal of 2% of revenue on freight costs. And that was because we did not have accurate weights and dimensions captured in our product master that drove finding the right cost model and shipping lane for the products that we were shipping around. So one trend alert there. In our events page, we've got
Chronicles.
a really Chronicles
This is under
page.
Chronicles, yeah.
We've got a pretty exciting session coming up from the president of Samarkey. I would encourage you guys to come listen to what Samarkey's story. This is a good example of where machine learning is being embedded in the master data management. Very compelling.
Agile MDM, yep.
Another trend alert, Julie. Just off the presses.
Trend alert!
Data catalogs are really embracing embedding machine learning on the front end as they digest that data. And that is helping immensely in the data governance area, especially where I have to dig through all of my data and find where I've got privacy information. And if I can take a good compelling data catalog tool and start processing all my information through it very quickly on the front end to see what, where I've got privacy issues that I have to address, as well as improving my data literacy because I've got collaborative framework set up for the information consumers to tell me, here's the data, here's the good data, here's how you should use the data, here's the data you should avoid, right? And if I combine those data catalog capabilities with the master data management capabilities I was talking before, we can start to solve some solutions like the new regulations that are coming via GDPR and California's CCPA, where an organization has to respond to a request to either remove all information about me as a customer or deliver to me all information about me. And if I've got a well-conceived master and registry that links my master linkage of Mike Lampa to all the derivative artifacts, and I can take advantage of data catalogs to help me get there, I can process these requests and be compliant. If you don't return the request within 30 days of being requested, the fines are going to be enormous. One of our clients currently has a velocity they can do 1 request a day right now, and they have 6 million customers, right? So they're looking at leveraging the master data management solution where I could feed as an API a request in to say, give me all my data and or delete it.
So Mike, I think you want me to do this one, but I did want to, I told you I'd give you a check based on when we started. We got about 10, 15 minutes. So I'm going to run through this one. This came, avoid the boomerang effect. I was at a lunch with some Informatica folks and I said, hey, you guys went private equity? I mean, here you are talking to me about your new coffee roasting machine. And he goes, we're kicking ass. He goes, oh, you guys ran up to the cloud and didn't govern your data. So they call it the boomerang effect, and they're making a lot of money on data governance. So it is key.
It is indeed.
Also, we really teach our clients how to have an MVP mindset. This is part of any lean agile type work. But we also, we work with them to make sure that they have the ability to help with the transformation. So when we do an MVP for our clients, when they're just dipping their toe in the water, we work with them to deliver an instance, maybe a Tableau dashboard, maybe even bring in a little R so they can do a predictive analytics. But we also teach them to put together an executive workshop that shows the results of that MVP so that they can help their executives and other people through the transformation process. So let me, of course I live downtown and they're emptying my trash, so excuse me. This is an MVP we did for Colorado Springs Utilities. And what we did was we integrated the customer billing and other sources. We took 4 years worth of information. It took us about 6 weeks, and we delivered a dashboard, a predictive dashboard to them. We brought in external data such as weather data, and also about halfway through the project, our data science team called and said, you're not gonna believe this, but we've got a big old 14er sitting right in the middle of Colorado Springs. So we're gonna need to get some, altitude type data in here because what we're predicting isn't really working without it. So we were able to deliver to them a dashboard that they then grew, and they were able to get the funding that they had been missing from the feds for leveling out that demand.
All right, let's talk a little bit about data ops, and I'm not going to get into the details around it, but the key here from a core tenant standpoint is the combination of team agility, which is cross-functional, fully contained teams following good agile disciplines and principles, combined with a mindset around data ops where it's all about automating everything I can, including the build kits and the deployments of containers, as well as the automating the tests of code before any line of code even gets to go into a build. Very critical, and that's going to improve our ability to reliably and predictably produce more and more quality software at a faster speed of light. Right? And to enable a data ops program, kind of the 7 steps. First is establish and decide on your data ops, your agile data ops development methodology. Make sure it's got a lean and agile mindset in there because you want both of those mindsets coming together. And then we're going to talk about in a little bit some vehicles and techniques for building up a good portfolio demand for analytic products that need to be built, right? And we want to leverage the self-service area to feed a pipeline, a continual pipeline into the backlog for data ops to execute. And then make sure we got a good automation collaboration platforms, because that's very important and critical. And then implement the appropriate environments to support those tooling. Make sure that we have the proper provisioning accesses across those environments, and break that out between your development and ops and support folks. And then make sure we've got a good set of standards and guidelines that we're going to follow as a lean, agile data ops organization, and then train, and constantly feedback via community of interests, getting together and say, what can we improve in the next release? Another real compelling session that we're going to be having is from the CEO of Data Kitchen. They're doing some really cool stuff around giving people a platform around data ops instead of having to stitch many tools together.
Yeah, and Mike, that's a video. It's already out there. It's published, so it's under Chronicles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Jules.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I know.
Yeah, so
it's hard to keep up with all the stuff, ain't it?
Yeah, don't know what I'm interviewing or what I already recorded. So some of the key benefits is that lean, agile culture really improves collaboration and communication across your team, and that's going to amp your people up. They are going to feel motivated, and they're going to be fired up that they're making a difference, and then it improves speed to market as you start to get these automation threads down, and you automate the development and testing disciplines. You'll see just an increase of producing defect-free software used in the same level of resources, but getting more work done. And that's important because as we take advantage of more pervasive self-service analytics, and those augmented technologies are enabling that, this starts to free up the building of data pipelines so that the business communities focus more on building prototypes, working prototypes, and then turning to the data ops team and say, okay, we've got this working, but now we need it to scale and we need it to be, failover proof and highly available and all that kinds of stuff. All right, so that's data ops. Let's talk a little bit about self-service. This is a use case, same global 100, Fortune 100 global manufacturer. They in 2017, they did an initial rollout of Tableau to 150 users. Within 18 months, that program grew to 15,000, a little over 15,000.
Amazing.
Consumers using the analytics that were published through Tableau by probably 100 or so power users that were building it on behalf of the business and then rolling it out. And that was so successful that we took the same program and started doing it with the Alteryx users. And that was just before I left. Phenomenal program. The business community after that 18-month period, they were able to account for, and they could validate the benefits that we produced, but they brought either it was $50 million in benefits. It was either because we were able to do more top line, or we took out costs to get a better bottom line. And the way they did it was comprehensive training and certification programs that were built. They were end to end. They had bronze, silver, gold certification levels. It was all automated through learning management system. And then there was a center of excellence that was the change agents in the group. And that's what drove that continuous collaboration and best practice sharing. This was led by the business community. It was the VP of Finance that drove this. IT supported it. VP of Finance owned it. And one of the key things I thought was cool is they had a real neat rewards program that just fueled the adoption and drove that 15,000 user number. You can hear my interview with Sherry Benzelak on that success story. It was phenomenal.
I think it's safe to say that it was Honeywell, and it is amazing.
Mm-hmm. And so that the steps for self-service program enablement really kind of followed what I saw was just an excellent approach in a large company. So establish that certification base and training base. Make sure you have that group of self-service change agents and champions so that you start to promote the wins, and then formalize that into a center of excellence and let the business own it and run it. And then have an engagement and governance model. This is very important. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the engagement model, rules of engagement and governance, and then have good communities of interest that do that best practice sharing, and then on a regular basis do a health radar to see where we can improve. I talked a little bit about those data zones earlier on. I want to focus on the self-service data zone part of it. And right now I broke it out into 4 different kinds of self-service zones. It might be 3, it might be 2. But the point is there's governance without a gavel on the, when I'm looking at the personal sandbox areas. I'm enabling a data analyst that is skilled to bring in data from the internal warehouse, from external warehouse, create new data, mash it up. I'm trying to find a new idea, right, that I can prove. And if I'm onto something, then I promote it to maybe a business or a department level shared area. Still not production by any means, still a kind of a shared sandbox, but I might do a little bit of a governance check to do some design reviews and whatnot and make sure the proper access rights are happening from a governance standpoint. But then as I move into a more business certified, so we're making production decisions on this stuff now, I'm going to start having some more rigor around the designs and the governance approvals around the calculations and all that. Now the business has something that's working, and at that point, that working prototype that they're using, or even a working pilot, they take their design spec along with all their epics and stories, and they put it into the IT backlog for them to build out the more worthy data pipelines and production ops and all that kind of stuff. So,
all right, Mike and Julie, we are getting close to time. So I just wanted to give you a little update on that. So far, we don't have questions and answers in the queue, but just wanted to let you know where we are time-wise. So thank you.
We'll zip through these, Mike. Let's not even go through the benefits.
Yeah, so you can see the benefits. Julie mentioned Agile product mindset. This is based on the scaled Agile framework, these case study results that we pulled out. And you can see that there's some significant improvements that many customers have had. And there's just a snapshot of companies that have fully adopted the scaled Agile framework to run their software development. And this is that big picture. Where I want to focus on is, let's take just some of the concepts around a customer-centric approach using design thinking and move continuous exploration into the business community and leverage the self-service platforms to get that done. And I've got some more thoughts on that, as you'll be able to find in our Chronicle session. So I want to do continuous innovation using a self-service approach to drive out my analytic demand and get it to the point where we've identified something that's worth going. So put it into the backlog and have the technical guys build it out. Right? So it's one of our core tenets is it's no longer having this 2-year, 3-year backlog queue of projects, but you focus more around finding your most valuable insight that you've got entitlement to it, apply modern compute capabilities to it to quickly determine if we're onto something and it does have legs, and if so, then put it in the backlog. So build durable requirements using design thinking, behavioral story approaches, build a portfolio demand generation approach that feeds working prototypes down in IT. Back to you, Jules.
And real quick on the humans, give me 2 minutes. So transformation is a process, as we all know. And the most painful part of it is change. People don't like change. Think of all the people that have lived in the same house all their lives, or think of people that have never seen the Rockies. What you want to do with is you want to be a transformation coach for your team. This is when try not to let your humans get into the valley of despair. So there are certain things that we can do to make that happen. And we look at 3 key areas: ideate, communicate, and educate. So give them the opportunity, maybe through labs or whatever, to start ideating with new innovation that's coming up. Even give them, some type of Tableau dashboard to build through using new things such as maybe cloud services and stuff. Big problem here is that we see a lot that management is not communicating out what's going on, and all of a sudden, bam, there's a new technology, new approaches, and they have not communicated out to their teams. Simon said earlier, the communication should go on through collaboration. It's key. Real quick, just to prove our point, when we were doing work with Google, a large beverage company in the South called us in to move their sales workloads up to the cloud. And we said, okay, fine. And we arrived via their request to do a kickoff meeting, and 30 minutes into it, 3 people got up and walked out because they didn't understand anything and were not told ahead of time. I don't know what happened to training, but I think everyone decided, well, now we got Coursera, go sit over in the corner and learn how to do something. I'm really advocating for the humans live training so that they can collaborate, so they can ideate, and so that they can have clarification on some of these complex type solutions. Furthermore, you've got to just do the dirty work every so often, and these are the 6 key steps. And, as I loved Simon, bring all your people together, let them grow. This was a project down at Rackspace. They had training, they had mashups, they had parties, they had awards like you did at Honeywell, Mike. And then we even had an organization out in LA that if you came up with an innovative idea and it saved the company money, you got the first 2,000 of that savings. So let us leave you with a few thoughts. If you're at a tipping point, which most of you probably are, take time for proper planning and education of the humans. Adopt analytics as a product mindset. Have the tenacity to move towards innovation. You'll find it to be very rewarding, and it helps your resume too, by the way. Put data in the hands of those that know it, and take care of the humans. Invest in education at all levels.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is amazing. So I so appreciate, Julie and Mike, you sharing your insights. I am married to a software engineer who lives and breathes lean, agile, and safe, certified in all of it. So it's fun to hear you bringing that in. I think so often with Tableau, we get focused on the data visualizations and making a pretty visualization. And it's important for us to think about the full data model, which was why we were so thrilled to be able to bring you on to join us today. I'm not seeing questions in the chat or in the Q&A. If anyone has any of those, please go ahead and put them in now or raise your hand and we'll have you come off mute.
Yep, and we can also do info at, and I noticed that there are people signing up for the site, so there's a lot of answers out there too.
Great, so info@greatdataminds.com. And one of the great things about Great Data Minds is that they are always trying to share and educate their knowledge and with you all. I so appreciated the in-person live shout out for trainers, being that is my job. And I have a team of amazing trainers here too. And there is a value to having that in-person training, even if it's virtual versus the recording. And one of my favorite things I wanted to point out that Great Data Minds does, they were the first ones to come up with the term that I had read, quarantinis. So they do a quarantini happy hour for those of you trying to get through this social distancing time that we're in right now. So it's a great way to connect with Julie and Mike. And like I said, you meet them once and they become your BFFs. So
thanks.
We always talk about the best way to learn Tableau is to play with it. The best way to play is with friends. So we need to create our TFFs, our Tableau friends forever. So we are welcome to our TFFs. We're so glad to have you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Next, we have, speaking of MVPs and most viable products, we're going to also talk about one of our MVPs on our team here at Boulder Insight. Kev Swearigan is going to be joining us now. And he's picking off right where Julie left off with the human piece of things. So he's going to talk about when Susie says she wants a pie chart, how do we really focus on human-centered design and help her get where she needs to go? So Kev, I'm going to hand this over to you now.
You got it. And can everybody see my screen?
We sure can. And so far, we don't have any Stump the Chump questions coming in for Chris. So you're fine to take your full 20 minutes. At least.
Okay. We don't need them.
Okay. Chris has more. Chris has more.
So I thought I'd take the time today to actually show you guys one of the tools we use when we design, for clients at Boulder Insight and everything like that. And as you guys know, there's a lot of things that go into kind of the higher end dashboards and to really get that branded polish and everything it needs. But this is a tool we use that is kind of starting to gain some traction. It started out kind of in the advertising world, and then it moved more into product development and all that. And like you heard Mike and Julie talk about, it's finally moving into data, right? So we were kind of ahead of the curve with applying design thinking to dashboard products and how we handle designing for our clients. So why do you care about this, right? Well, design thinking can actually help you out with a lot of your data agendas, right? Data literacy, it gives people a gateway and a way to engage in the process that really, like, people that normally would sit in the corner are kind of, I don't want to say forced, but they're more invited into the process of developing the dashboards. Data storytelling, it's kind of, we talk about data storytelling, but what type of story are you going to write? You know what I mean? Who's your audience? Understanding them and understanding their needs and understanding what resonates with them. Like, everybody is a unique individual. They all have different personalities, and this exercise can really help you understand these people and actually craft a story that will be the best story possible for these people. And then data culture. If you have people involved in the process of creating these dashboards, and I know that sounds annoying, but it will actually help improve the data culture, because people, if you do it correctly, people actually enjoy being part of this process, and everybody likes being part of the solution, right? So by engaging these people in these strategies, you're actually bringing them into a process, and instead of saying, hey, I'm the data guy, you sit back over there and I'll bring you the data, right? This actually invites them into the process. Now, there's going to be things they don't understand about data, but don't let that discourage you, right? What you want to do is get their kind of the voice of what they're saying or the ways they use it, right? You don't want to build out this giant, like, amazing dashboard that you spend weeks on, and then they turn around and say, I just need that 20% number at the top because that's all I'm championing up. Like, hey, we're up 35%, and they walk off, and then you feel like you didn't do your job, right? So there's a lot of value that this can bring. So what is design thinking? And it's just basically, it encourages organizations to focus on their people that they're creating it for, right? Like, it's a way to make you stop and think. I hate to say it, but Dora the Explorer said it best. Let's stop and think, for those of you that have kids, right? So this helps with products. It helps with services and internal process. This isn't just an artsy fartsy thing, right? But it's applied by Fortune 500 companies all over the place. And I quoted here from IDEO, and IDEO is considered kind of the thought leader in this space. We all pretty much take a lead from them. They're a big giant think tank, and they're just an amazing organization. How can you learn design thinking? I'm going to recommend this book, and I'm going to stop sharing and just show you this real quick. Google IDEO, start following them. They've got great podcasts, they've got great books, they've got great online resources. And before we move on, I'm going to show you kind of this book right here. It's the Field Guide to Human-Centered Design, and show you how easy it is to follow the methodologies that they already have spelled out. And you have me on video. You guys see my camera?
We sure do.
Cool. So here's the book. This thing is great if you guys are interested. So what I'd recommend is what they do is this whole book is filled with just methodologies that they use to implement things. But what's great about it is you can pick things. So when they say talk to your audience, you don't really know how to talk to your audience or what steps you should take. So they've outlined it, for you, and they'll give you a process, a step-by-step you can follow. Then all you got to do, this one's on defining your audience. It's kind of like creating your team, right? The next one is actually a process called top 5. How do you get everybody to agree on the top 5 things and then interact with them? And then you move on to defining success metrics. So they've done a really nice job of like defining a whole process that is actually very easy for you to implement, follow, and walk through. But I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of the core of a process we use. It's one of the methodologies out of the book, and then also a little bit more on it, and then kind of show you a real world example of some dashboards and how we applied it and how we did iterate to get to the answer. Human-centered design, that's also design thinking, same thing, interchangeable. It's really about, oops, I gotta share again, sorry guys. Human-centered design is really about starting with people, right? There's kind of 3 forces at work in any project that you work on, and it's the desirable. What does a human want? A human wants to interact with a gorgeous app. They don't want to interact with a stupid Excel spreadsheet, right? So there's a desire there, but also what are their needs, right? Then you have the business piece of it, which is really what's viable. Like, we're not going to spend 2 months building this, guys. And guess what? I know you want a resource budget of, $200,000, but we're going to give you 20, And then you have feasibility. What can actually be executed on? What exists? Like, we had a person the other day, me and Chris on a call with a client, and they said, if Tableau can do 3D, do 3D. And we're like, it can't, so there's limitations on, what is actually available compared to what is executable. In the center of all these goals, in the center of all these driving forces, that's where we want to hit. That's our target, right? So our goal is to not ignore one of these forces or the others, but to find where they intersect, and to make them the best we can be. And a lot of that is understanding your people. So on this simple graph here, the outside ring kind of shows their data competency, and data competency is all over the map. But we always say, stop and talk to your audience, but did you? And did you really use any like methodology when you're doing that? Or did you say, hey, Bob, what do you use this for, right? So actually following a methodology can really help you identify the right questions to ask and get them thinking about the data the right way. When working with data, we usually have more answers than the people that don't work with data, right? So it's very easy to walk over an answer. But, we talked about Sally needing a pie chart. Some people aren't good with data, and some people need to walk slowly. So when you're developing these data stories, you have to start slow and evolve into something deeper, right? So giving them a path, giving them a way to engage with data is key. So from here, you would go into, this is a six-step process that's pretty common when you get into the IDEO principles. It's basically observation. Before you even start a dashboard, look around, stop, see what every person touching this dashboard is doing with this dashboard. Every piece of data that they're leveraging, can it be combined into another dashboard? Are there too many things in one dashboard? How do they use the data? Do they really use it, statistically, or do they just champion one KPI and they move on with their day? Ideation, this is the one you always see of a bunch of people standing in front of a board, sticking up Post-it notes. It's a good way to get your thoughts out there and get everybody's thoughts out there. And a lot of times the insight is going to come from the person in the room you least expect. We're so used to someone being smart with data might not be the best with how other people engage with data. I'm talking to you, Chris. No, I'm kidding. But it's important to get everybody's thoughts out there. And this is where you really get engagement into a product or a project, I'm sorry. So the more voices you have at the table, the more buy-in you're going to have too. The more they're going to feel like they were part of this. They were part of this experience. So it really serves a dual purpose. Then you have rapid prototyping. Rapid prototyping is no more than build a dashboard quick and get it out there. Don't worry about it being perfect, worry about it being functional. And then you get feedback on that, which is number 4. You know, does this work for you? What's missing? How would you use this in your daily life? Again, there's a whole methodology you can follow to ask these questions. And then you do it iteration, meaning you take all this input and you do it again, and you do it again. Now, this sounds painful, but this is actually the brilliant part of it that most people don't do. Meaning most people say, my work's done, goodbye. But is it? Like, what are the odds you nailed the perfect dashboard on the first round? They're not good, you know, and if they are, God bless you. But this is really key to building a superior dashboard and a process that addresses a multitude of users and functionality. And then the last one is implement your iterations and monitor. You know what I mean? Don't just throw it out there and lose track of the feedback. Don't just, my work's done, you know, I hope it works out great for you. This is all about getting feedback and creating that feedback loop to improve the process. So now what I'm going to do is show you what I'm going to show you is actually dashboard that we built.
It's beautiful.
For a project. Thanks, Chris. And Chris, feel free to jump in anytime too. This is a dashboard we built for a client. It's safe to show this data, so we're not showing you anything you shouldn't see. But here you can see version 1 where we start out. It's a standard, you know, Tableau dashboard that we believe the functionality is there. But when you get into it, people started asking questions. They didn't really seem to get it like the people that built the dashboard got it. So we took the feedback, we did the iteration, built the next one, right? We made some improvements. The response was better, but people still got lost on some organization things and where things were tied to. Did another iteration. And then people liked it better on black. The colors popped better for them. They felt more organized. You know, it was easier on their eyes to read. I'm going to skip version 4 through 25, but this is the power of this process. So this is where we ended up, you know, and you could keep iterating. But again, this is where, you know, the business goal, the human side, the business goal, and the technology all align, right? Did we meet the business goal? Is it working? Is it functioning? Like, Chris, I don't know. We're probably not going to readdress this for probably another couple months after the clients used it. Is that correct?
Yeah, probably. Can you click on something?
Yeah.
On the, yeah, whatever. Huh. Should have the animation turned on. I thought it would do it. Interesting that it didn't. And then also too, you can show the mobile version too, because that's also part of this. Is you know, we're seeing a lot of people that are wanting to use mobile more now. So you have to come out of presentation. There you go.
Do or don't.
Yeah, there you go. So just setting this up so it has a mobile component as well, and then if you want to click on one of those, you know, one of the leads down in the bottom, and then you'll launch into kind of hover over the orange dot in this version. Click it again, hover over it. Maybe it does. Maybe try it in the desktop view, but it should link you into the Google form. No. Just there you go. Actually, may not do it in presentation, but yeah, there you go.
There it is.
Yeah. So this client we actually leverage like this Google Forms for, so that way if they want to track their leads and they want to make updates. So if this one was dead or whatever, or they changed their commission percentage or any of these things, they could update it right here. So we did a lot of work kind of back in using Zapier or Zapier, or how you say it, to kind of take leads from their CRM and put them in a way that they could both make comments quickly on the fly on their phone. So
very cool. So getting back to sorry guys, it's jumping in and out of presentation mode. It's a little painful. So at the end of this, you have some dashboards that feel more like products. At the end of this, they should feel more like an app than they should feel just like a out of the box dashboard that, you know, isn't really, I don't know, organized, designed, and actually thoughtful of the end user, right? But what you've done additionally is you've actually created engagement around the product. So your people that have a lower aptitude, you know, on data, their data understanding, they're actually engaged for the first time. It's really hard to engage these people. And most of the time when we talk about data competency, they're the people we just really wish were fired from the company and didn't work there, right? Not fair, but that's how we feel at times. So for example, in sales, you know, does it matter if somebody just understands their sales metrics, but they're a really good salesman, but they don't go deeper in the data? Of course not, you know, but it does give them a window in to see the value, and it does give them a seat at the table of understanding the process and being part of that. So it does help bring them along. And the reason you want to do all this is because the only way you're going to achieve data excellence at the end of this is if you really bring everybody along to the table through the different stages, right? Basic training, advanced training, you know, then they turn into Tableau champions, but that's going to be a ways down the line. And then your data goals, you know, of your whole company, you really need the people to achieve your data goals, you know. So that's pretty much kind of the whole reason behind what we do and kind of insight into one of the things we work on. So that's all I got, Heather. How's that for quick?
That is great, Kev. So questions for Kev on this whole approach of human-centered design. I know it's been a really great learning process for us as a company. Before we had Kev on board, we were pretty darn proud of our dashboards. And then we realized there was a lot that we could be leveraging from human-centered design practices, like left navigation. One of the things you showed in your iterations, Kev, let me get my video showing here, is that people liked the dark background. I think that's kind of a point of contention for some of my students when I teach and some of our clients. So can you talk a little bit about why that dark background is preferred often in design?
I think the dark background really helps create the contrast, right? For the colors, for the data story and everything like that is number one. Two, the same thing, like the whole reason Google's came out with dark modes for browsers and phones and everything like that is because people prefer them, right? Like the other thing is trends change, right? Like you like dark backgrounds and after 10 years, you're going to be sick of them and you're going to want something else. And that's important in dashboards too, right? Like, again, you want to engage people in these dashboards, and there are visual tricks of the trade that you can use to do that, you know, and human-centered design and going down that road and understanding that really helps out.
I love it. And I love that the audience is at the center of this when you're talking about the human and the human-centered design. The human is not you that's building the dashboard. It's who Susie is. And she might have wanted that pie chart. She got it at the beginning at that first iteration, but then you moved Susie out of that. So, and to be able to better see and understand her data, because that's our mission with Tableau, and that's our work that we're doing. So I really appreciate it, Kev.
The other thing on that, while we're there, is Kevin, I remember one of the first times we talked about kind of making over one of these dashboards, you had mentioned that, you know, that having your background be white is you're taking kind of this actually color that is super bright, and you're
it's hard on the eyes. Yeah,
so it's hard on the eyes, and also you're not able to leverage it to really kind of have things pop out, right? So if you save your white that you can use for things that are important, then that's going to be the brightest color, and that's going to really jump out on your dashboard.
Yeah.
Great. And Chris, why don't we turn on your video? Thanks so much, Kev. This is our
Always.
Stump the
Thanks,
Chump
guys.
session. Thanks for coming in and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us, Kev. We always appreciate it. I know I've become a better data analyst and data viz specialist. Chris has moved from toilet paper to his cleaned out garage now. I have a feeling that this is not his really cleaned out garage, although they did have that as a project during quarantine, I know. So if there's any questions for Chris, anything that you're struggling with, Chris will open up Tableau and try to solve it live on the screen, which is what he typically does at the end of all of our meetings at the Boulder Tableau user group. So we'll pause for a second and see. If not, I happen to know Chris has a few things up his sleeves, even though he has short sleeves on. He is in Charlotte, and there is no snow in Charlotte right now, I'm assuming. So, let's see. All right, Chris, I'm not getting any questions. Why don't you pull out one of your tips for the next 5 minutes, and then we'll kind of wrap up the meeting.
What we'll do is we'll kind of go into maybe that same dashboard that Kevin showed. Let me share my screen here. Actually, first, I think I'm going to need some actually help to really get this done. So I'm gonna pull in some people to help me here. Here we go. So got a little tiger help. All right. I'll share. So this is the same one that Kevin showed you guys. So you know, just I wanted to kind of show more about that kind of Google form piece and the piece that we're doing. We also did, actually, you know, I'm gonna pull up a different one, but this is another one that's very similar. Well, we use the same dashboard and did a different function. So very often we get calls from people that said, where did I put that one, Kevin? Oh, you know what? Actually, no, where it is. Let's do it on the server. So we go to here. We'll go to our server live. Yeah, here we go. So this one here. So a couple of different things. So we often have clients that say to us, hey, you know, we want to be able to you know, to build a dashboard and then export it to an image and put it in this a presentation. And I'm like, well, I don't know why you would do that, because you can just use like Tableau and actually build it out. So if you notice, Kevin was going through all of his slides. There was no PowerPoint involved. Everything was in like Tableau. So, but their only argument is, hey, well, we need to be able to you know, to do this analysis and write up some comments about what things mean. So we did this function here where we have it set up that you can just kind of click on it and you say, hey, I want to put in some new actually analysis. So I'll put in, you know, Chris Cox in IT, and I think this is amazing. I dare you to say different, right? So we can put all that stuff in, and now we go back to the dashboard, and every time it hits refresh, then it's going to change out this section and kind of give me that new analysis. So where this would go is now I can have a living, breathing dashboard that my analysts get to, you know, make comments on, and then we could save their analysis. So if we had like a parameter that would scroll back in time, we could say, okay, well, in Q1, this is what they said. And you know, in Q4 of last year is what they said. So all those things are possible. So it's using the same functionality with like the Google Forms and just making it live. So
we have 2 questions for you, Chump. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. First question is from Grazina. 2 questions are from Grazina. So it's great. I've been excited. We've seen lots of our friends. It makes me sad that I'm not seeing your faces today, but I'm so excited seeing the names in the participant panel. What can I do to allow users to sort by choosing different dimensions or measures? Is the first question. What can I do to allow users to sort by choosing different dimensions or measures?
You mean, so, well, so you mean two different dimension? Can you maybe, I mean, can you like unmute her just so she can ask?
Alyssa, could you take Grazina off mute, please?
And just, I want to understand just to make sure I get it right.
There you go. She's off mute.
Hello, friends.
How's it going?
Well, how are you?
Good.
I'm jealous you are enjoying the sunshine.
Oh yeah.
My question is, it's probably not the best visualization, but that's what the users want. So we have a dashboard that has multiple dimensions under columns and measures, and they want to sort. So let's say in here, you could have a segment, you could have order ID, you could have a city or even state, and you have dollar amounts. So, and then,
Okay. So there's a bunch of stuff like this.
right. And, but if you just click on it, because there are multiple things, it will only sort with hint. So I know there is a parameter you can build, but there were some issues where, you know, let's say I want to sort by now segment, right? Or dollar amounts. I can't just click there and sort it. It will sort with hint. So that's the way.
Yeah. So what I would say to this is that don't focus on the sort. Focus on what they're trying to actually do. So what I would bet you is that they're trying to say, okay, well, I actually want to see all the actually consumer segments first, or I want to see all the corporate, or I want to see all the bookcases for everything, right? So what I would do for this is I would duplicate this 3 times, and I would make one for each one, because that's going to give you the answer for this one. This is going to give you the answer for that one. And this is going to give you the answer here, right? And then if you have these on one dashboard, then now I can do all those things. So now if I say, okay, I actually want to know, you know, what's happening, I can now sort by any of these things I want, right? So now they're all actually separately sorted. So if I wanted to look at, okay, well, if I'm looking at just consumer, now click on consumer, and now these are all sorted by that, right? So if you try to do too much in one view, you kind of lose what's important. So even if I mean, and I'm sure there's ways to do it, but I think that, I mean, this is where I would say listening to your try not to, and this is gonna sound bad, but sometimes listening to your client means try to understand what they're trying to do, not really what they're trying to design, because clients don't, you know, they actually don't know what they don't know. So if you say, okay, well, I see what you're trying to do, tell me what you're going to do differently if I was able to get that for you. And if you can get them in that path of, okay, well, here's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out, should I look at consumer segment or corporate segment first? Okay. Well, now I understand what you're trying to do. So that's a different process versus what they think is they're asking you, hey, can I just sort these columns, right? So it's very often I see it all the time. Like this kind of goes down that same path of, I see that clients ask, hey, can you give me a way to export all the data? And so when that happens, what I think in my mind is that I have not answered their whole question. So if they're wanting to export data, then your dashboard is not solving their problem. So you have to know what their problem is, and you have to actually address it. So we often spend a lot of time just really talking to our clients and trying to understand what they want to do. And you know, and most of the dashboards, you know, are really meant, well, the ones we build are really meant to kind of tell you something that you didn't already know. You know, if you go down the approach of, hey, I know exactly what I'm looking for. I need this one number. I need to know how many, you know, segments, you know, how profitable was this segment? Well, that's one answer. But then if I ask you the follow-up question of, okay, so if I told you that your profit of your consumer segment was this number, tell me what you're going to do it differently. So if I told you if it was 60,000, what would you do differently? So there's really no action from that. It's just flat knowledge. So you got to pair it with, okay, great, I can give you the scorecard, I can tell you where you are, but let's actually grow into something that's actionable. So I know it's kind of a long answer for what you asked, but
no, it's perfect answer, Chris. And what I love is that we're starting with a question and going deeper than not how can I sort these, but what is the deep question you're looking at, and how does that lead to it from a data analytics standpoint instead of reporting? How does it lead to action? And I think that's a really critical piece. There is one more question that Grazina has that I'm going to have you type the answer into that one. And I am going to take over the screen share, if you wouldn't mind, and we'll talk about ways to stay connected with us going forward. Let me get this up. So there's ways to keep in touch with us and get the latest BTUG news. So be sure that you join the Boulder Tug community page and go to our LinkedIn page if you'd like as well. I always post on both of those. And then we also have an event site for Splash if you'd want to find that. There are ways for you to stay involved with us when we get back to the world being safe and sound and all of us physically gathering together rather than physically distancing right now and socially connecting virtually. We would love for you to host a meeting, and we also are always looking for people who to share their talents. So show us your chops, show off your digs if we get to a meeting, and let us know when you want to present at a future meeting. But one of the ways that I mentioned that we love to learn in Tableau is to make sure that we play with our friends, right? And I talked about our TFFs. So one of my Tableau friends forever is Denise Peck. And I just wanted to introduce you all to her and make sure that you don't forget that you can join us in Boulder, you can join us in Denver. And I will share a little secret that Denise and Chris and George and Kev and my team, we have been talking about how can we do some joint work together in the community. So stay tuned for some of those details as well. But Denise, I just want to hand the call off to you before I do my thank yous for everyone to just hear a little bit about what's happening with the Denver Tug and any of your plans that are coming up.
Hey there, Heather. Before we go too far, I just want to confirm, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, great. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, speakers, for your wonderful presentations. It was really, really good to hear new perspectives and see new things. And thank you all very much. The Ablaze Group is based in Colorado, and we've been here for quite a while. And we specialize in Tableau and several other BI and reporting tools. We do education and training on site and virtually, consulting, we do courseware, I've done some best-selling books, and we do support as well. But the most important thing today is this. The Denver Tableau user group has been around since May 2012. It started out as a 35-person lunch and learn, and it's grown into a healthy, thriving group that meets quarterly. And our presentations are for Tableau customers, by Tableau customers, and about them. Really want you guys to join. You can find out more about the Ablaze Group and most importantly about the Denver Tug by emailing me. Shoot me an email at info@ablazegroup.com. We're always looking for locations. We're always looking for presenters. And gosh, we're really looking forward to collaborating with the Boulder Tug, and we're really looking forward to seeing you who took the time to spend with us this afternoon at a meeting. So Heather, thank you so much for letting me jump in. I'm going to hand the meeting back off to you.
Thanks so much, Denise. All right, well, speaking of thank yous, thank you so much to Simon and Tableau and JLL, to Julie and Mike from Great Data Minds, Kev, my colleague at Boulder Insight, and Chris, just for being such a chump. So I thank him as well. And I also want to do a shout out to my dear other co-leaders, Jennifer Fujita, who's doing a ton of work making education virtual for the entire Adams School District, and Tim Holmberg on the call, Timo, that is on my team too, and Austin Winter. So it's so great to have you all. I'm looking forward to seeing your faces again. It's so nice to look in that attendee panel and see names that I recognize and faces that I miss so much. So please stay safe. be well and take care. And don't forget to reach out anytime we can be of help. And let us know. Shoot me an email at heather@boulderinsight, BOULDER, singular insight.com, and let me know if you'd like to do another virtual meeting. The hardest part sometimes for me to organize the BTUGs is finding a host site. So these virtual meetings are a really lovely way for us to be able to connect and not have to worry about a host site as well. So stay safe, be well, take care. Know that we're here for you if you need us. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great one.